So today I'm going to show you how to drain the transmission fluid and replace the transmission filter on your Mitsubishi. Now normally a job like this is pretty simple. You usually just find the drain plug, drain it, and a lot of the times there might be a screw-on filter beside of the pan or something like that. That's super simple and super obvious. However, with these it's slightly different, but it's easy to do, so let's go ahead and jump into it. So this is the fluid that you'll have to pick up. You obviously can't use your standard like Dexmerk or anything like that. This is what it calls for. And here is the transmission filter. So you're going to get the pan gasket that comes in with it. And this is what the filter looks like so. Of course, you'll see the old one here in just a minute. Here is the part number if you're interested. Now it's time to crawl underneath the car. All right, so before you crawl underneath the car, you want to make sure that you get a drain pan. You want to get your socket and ratchet, and you'll need a 19 millimeter for the drain plug, and you'll need a 10 millimeter for the pan bolts that go all the way around. Now, before you can start taking these bolts loose, you do have a plastic protective cover right here that needs to come off first. So let's do that. And just like that, it's gone. Okay, not really. There were two 10 millimeter bolts right here, and then two of those little push-in tabs that you just pull out with like a pair of needle nose pliers. But anyways, now that that's gone, you can get to the rest of these bolts right here on your transmission pan. So let's go ahead and start with your 19 millimeter, and let's hit this drain plug right here. Get the fluid drained out, and once the fluid has completely stopped draining, then we will go ahead and take all these bolts out, pull this pan off, because right here is where that filter is located. Now, as I mentioned before, these pan bolts are a 10 millimeter, and there are 19 of them, so make sure you keep up with them, and maybe have your little magnetic tray or something like this, because you don't want to lose one. Why 19 and not 20? I don't know, but it drives my OCD crazy. Okay, now once you get that last bolt out, there's still going to be a little bit of fluid in the pan, so make sure that you have your drip pan here ready, because there's still going to be some left. There we go. Now, something you want to check, these are magnets that are in the bottom of the pan. You want to check these magnets to see if there's any chunks of metal on there, because if you see any chunks of metal, that's not a good sign. That usually means something is broken, and these magnets have caught it. Okay, so up here, this is the filter that we're going to be changing out. So you see that you have 3 bolts right here to pop this out, put the new one in. While you're here, you want to look and kind of make an inspection, make sure that everything's looking okay. And this nut is actually kind of been known to vibrate loose sometimes, so you want to make sure this is still good and tight. This one's tight, so let's go ahead and take this out and worry about swapping out the filter. These bolts are also a 10 millimeter. Now, something obviously to take note of is you don't want to mix up the filter bolts with the pan bolts. So I'm actually taking these 3 filter bolts and I'm putting them back in the pan, whereas the pan bolts I have in this separate magnetic tray. One of the reasons is this bolt is longer than the rest. And if you're wondering, it goes right here. So short bolt, right here, long bolt. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't mean to drop it. I meant to pull it out easily. Anyways, now that we've got the old filter out, it's time to put the new one back in. All right, so this right here comes with a nice little rubber O-ring, and this is going to set up in here. So you want to start by pressing that up in place and making sure that kind of pops in place. Now it'll essentially hold itself there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put the torque specs for the filter on the screen now. There's your torque specs for the filter, and here are the torque specs for the pan. Now, of course, you're going to want to make sure that you clean the gasket area very well, and putting the new gasket back on is pretty much going to question your sanity. But what I have found out is, sorry, there's a train going by. That's probably about as quiet as it's going to get for like the next 10 minutes while that's going by. Anyways, you'll notice that the gasket almost seems to be too small for the pan when you're trying to set it on. And it's impossible to just set the gasket on there and try to put this up in place. What you will have to do is start putting a couple of the bolts in and stretch the gasket over top. And where the gasket is, it feels like it's too small. The pulling effect on all the corners will kind of hold these bolts in place, and thus holding the gasket in place. I hope you're tracking. And of course, after you're done, making sure that the pan is completely tightened up to torque specs and making sure that everything looks good, then don't forget to put your plastic cover back up on the front. Then after that, the only thing you have left to do is put the fluid in it. But before that, let me tell you something. When you get your gasket for the pan, make sure to count how many holes are in it, because I have heard stories of people getting these gaskets and there only being 18 holes in it instead of 19. And whenever you're putting the pan up in there and you're figuring out, well, why is this hole not lining up? There should be lining up. That's why. So make sure you count those. There should be 19 holes in that gasket matching the pan. Anyway, so right here is your transmission dipstick. So obviously you just pull that out, put the fluid in, and then put the dipstick back in. Turn the vehicle on, let it run for around 5 to 10 minutes, cycle through the gears like reverse and back into drive, and then put it back in park to get the fluid flowing well, and check your level. And that's pretty much it. So I hope this was helpful, and if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer those correctly for you. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you later.